everybody, welcome back. Sorry for the little delay here. Somebody was hogging our room and we had a little late getting set up, even though we were ready at like 5 o'clock. Anyways, I told you, Biz, that's what always happens. When you start talking that shit about we're going to be all early and we got it all, what did I tell you? Something would happen.
It wasn't me. I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready.
See, what had happened was...
What had happened was the way my checking account is set up.
Yeah. Anyways, y'all, welcome back. Happy to have you here with us this week. I got my good friend that we've been working on for a while doing this. We've been talking since like year one about doing this.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So, yeah, man, I'm good to have you here, man. Y'all welcome Eric Hall to the show. What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that we've already dispelled one stereotype at the beginning. Busy was ready. I was ready. I was here early. Busy was ready. We're going to kill that stereotype real quick.
Yeah. I mean, let's get them all out of the way. I told you, Busy isn't on unmarked territory over there. You know, we get him involved too.
Yeah. No, it's great to finally be here and, you know, sit here and we have been talking about this forever. And, you know, good chance to catch up, smoke cigars. And
yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah. Well, for those that don't know who Eric Hall is, why don't we start off just telling everybody a little bit where you're from, what your background is, you know, just give everybody a little story about where you grew up, kind of give us a little 5-minute on.
Okay. So, originally born in Birmingham, Alabama, 46 years ago next week.
Wow, happy early birthday.
Yeah, so born in Birmingham, grew up a good chunk of my life there, moved, ended up here in Texas when I was 12, but there was a little year break in the middle where I lived in New Mexico in order to get here. So I kind of started my life out traveling and moving different places, which was funny because I was not a military brat, which is what everybody always assumed. Though my dad and my stepdad were both in the military, but no, we were, you know, proud to be from the South, proud to be from Birmingham. Love the place. I love the fact that I grew up in my formative years in Texas. Pretty sure that's what made me most of what I am, because even my own big brother makes fun of me. He's like, yeah, you're not one of us anymore.
I can see that. I mean, you go full, you know, like when a vinyl album showed up in my locker and I was trying to determine who put this in there, if it was by accident, because I was like, you know, that happens up here at times. I was asked questions and like, for a minute, and this is the best answer the person I asked could have given me. They were like, who wears a cowboy hat up here all the time? I'm like, well, there's a couple of people, but I haven't seen 2 of those 3 people in quite a while. And it took me a minute. They were like, oh, I was like, it was E. Hall.
Yeah, you know, it's which that thing does sound so much better on vinyl. Yeah, it just really does, and that dude does.
It is a phenomenal album.
Yeah. No, you know, it's funny. So people always assume that's where the country thing, man, started in the beginning. So I had a unique experience growing up. My mom's side of the family is from this little area. Well, when she was growing up, lived in this area called Green Springs, right? In Birmingham, back in the old segregated days. And it's where a lot of the black doctors, lawyers lived, educators. My grandmother taught in Jefferson County Public Schools for 30 plus years, right? She retired from there. And my mom grew up there. My mom grew up in that environment. My grandfather, unfortunately, I never got to know him. He passed away when my mom was 14. But I know a lot about him, right? And so he was an entrepreneur. He figured some things out, and the man did a little bit of everything to get by, and as he was building businesses, but he listened and learned, and he figured out the value of land, and so he had acquired some, and basically was able to capitalize on that and put his family and my mom and my aunt in a great situation in segregated Birmingham, right? You contrast that to my dad. My dad's side of the family, This place called Alabaster, which would be the equivalent today from Dallas to like Aubrey, right?
Okay.
But Alabaster was country. Well, still is. It's growing. It's a big suburb now, but it's country. And so whenever I was young, I would spend time with my grandmother in this pristine, and what I did not realize at the time was a big house. When I look back on it now, I mean, that was a big house. That was a 3,000 square foot house that was built, in the late 40s, early 50s. This was insane, right?
Yeah.
Especially for a black family. But, this multi-level house with a formal living room and a formal dining room, and it was very much treated that way. My grandmother had raised those girls by herself because by the time I came along, obviously it said my grandfather had passed, and there was very much rules and prim and proper and whatever. And then I would go visit my Aunt Emma on my dad's side of the family, and it was 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, animals. It was like whatever, and I took to that side, right? And so, the first hats, the first cowboy boots all came when I lived in Alabama. And I remember actually kind of having that mentality in the year or so I lived in New Mexico. I think it was 6th grade. Already being the kid that, because I lived in New Mexico, I lived in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho. Most of those people were transplants from New York, so they thought I talked funny, right? And then I got there, and they thought I talked funny, and I walked around most of the time in either some Vans or some cowboy boots and an Atlanta Braves hat that was probably way too faded and way too beat up and needed to be replaced. And I just didn't fit, right? But I got along. We had a church family. We had some people. And then I moved to Texas in 90. And all of a sudden, it was like, okay, all right.
Found your comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, Sherman was a different animal, and it had some of its own issues there because there was some things with race in Sherman that I didn't understand, especially being from Alabama, because I was like, it wasn't great, right?
Yeah.
Sherman was an interesting dynamic. But yeah, so I got basically a little bit of everything. But the countryside of me, the things that make me look at and enjoy that Western way of life, but also the values that come with it, actually really come deeply from my Alabama family. My great-grandfather, who was kind of my grandfather, was very much he got dressed to go to the bank. He got dressed to go to the barber shop. He would always take me with him. It was, your word was your word. A handshake meant something. Like all that stuff. My love for the hat, that came from him. All that actually came from that Alabama part of my family.
That's cool, man. That's sounds like you've always stuck to your roots.
Yeah, at the end of the day, even I think we all do it to a point. You don't realize it a lot of times, but you always revert back to it. I mean, some people fight it. I fought it for a little bit because it wasn't always cool to be the black kid that walked around dressed like this. I laugh now how much it is kind of like, I'm like, wow, this is... I have several of those, just like I got made fun of for playing golf, and then Tiger Woods hit the scene, and people were like, hey, man, can you teach me how to play golf? I'm like, no, dude. Like, last year you were making fun of me saying I was playing a white boy sport. But, no, yeah, I think just... That's core values, man. That's the reason they call them core values. You always revert back to them. Sometimes we make a hard turn to get back there. Sometimes we have to learn some life lessons, but,
Or have Busy's grandma put a gun in your face, something like that.
That'll learn you real quick.
Yeah, that's pretty effective.
That'll get the rules set there and now.
Some of the stories you guys have told me about the different areas you grew up are so similar, and just experiences that most I can't relate to, but man, you guys got some classic stories about, like you kind of alluded to the oddities of growing up in Sherman, Texas, and how you thought that was going to be like so different than Birmingham, but in reality it really wasn't that different.
Well, it was different in weird ways, but you're talking about some of this. Man, I found out when I was in I guess I wasn't 40 yet when I met Busy, but pretty close. found out that close to 40, I could still be surprised because when he told me he's from Omaha, I was like, "There's black people in Omaha." I was like, didn't know that.
Too many. That's why I moved.
Yeah, but no, man. I think it's weird. I mean, it's weird. It's so different. So I felt like there were a lot of things that we were pushing through in Birmingham because it was the epicenter of the civil rights movement, right?
Yeah.
And it was, and I got to hear a lot of the stories. My family was involved in the civil rights movement. But it was also one of those places that, like, did it better, I think, than some when it came to transitioning an area that actually was kind of thriving, as far as like a thriving business culture in the black side of town during segregation. And so transitioning that well into integration where it was, didn't lose that culture.
Yeah.
To a place that not so much. They didn't transition that well at all, right?
Yeah.
I think there's also was a benefit looking back on it to the fact that Birmingham, in the grand scheme of things, is a big town. It's not compared to Dallas. It's not compared to, but for the area at the time, it was, right? And Sherman had some issues. It's the only place that Frank Hamer ever got ran out of, right? Just crazy. Legendary Texas Ranger, right? But it's the only place he ever got ran out of because Sherman had some issues.
Yeah.
And they had some major race issues because of a couple of incidences that I think some of that trauma is still there to this day. I mean, I remember actually not too long ago, the issue with that one where they tried to burn down the courthouse to get hold of this guy. The people who originally did it, some of them were still alive, but there was a guy who had written an article and was going to name names, and people were asked to please don't publish it because some of these people were still alive, like they're in their 90s, but it was like,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I think there's like the hurts or the talent like that, they're just more deep because one, it's smaller, doesn't have, versus where, I mean, Birmingham went through all of it. So
Yeah.
like one incident's not as crazy when you've had bombings and you've had hoses and you've had riots and you've had.
Yeah.
So when you move to the other side of this, it looks a little bit better. It's still tough, right? But I mean, like, I got to watch my dad work at, Vulcan Materials as an exec, right? And I got to see. I remember when I first moved here. I think that was a big shock. Right, because a lot of these guys had only seen black doctors and lawyers on the Cosby Show. We still allowed to say Cosby Show?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we can say whatever we want on here.
No, I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, whatever happened with that was actually a good show for, especially a lot of people didn't know that was possible, right? So for me, I'd seen it in real life.
Yeah.
And when I moved here, it was weird to, like, be around people who'd never really, I was like, oh, yeah. I'd be like, oh, yeah, like, my mom's friend does this, or like, oh yeah, no, my doctor's black. Okay.
See, it's so weird for me to hear you talk about these things in this way because I'm only 2 years younger than you, and I don't recall ever questioning or feeling that way in the different places I lived. And I mean, I went to an almost all black school at one point in my life, and just to think that was still such a thing at any point in time in the time period I've been alive. But then I've had other experiences that have made me see that that's very much so. But,
I think that's part of it, though, is right. It's like we all have our experiences. And that's where we have to have some respect and kindness for other people, right? Because not everybody has the same experience. And, like, we rarely do. Even if you grew up in the same area and on the same block, right?
Yeah. So I'm saying you moved here when you were you said 6th grade?
No, I actually moved here in 7th grade.
Okay, so 7th grade. And I moved here right before my start of my junior year in high school. So relatively same time. I mean, we're talking early 90s, early mid 90s. Yeah. So
yeah, it's all about,
And Sherman, for those people, some may or may not know, is like not that far from where we are right now in Frisco, Texas. It's what, 40 minutes from here?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, that's not.
It's not far. People make it act like it's far, but it's really not. And at the end of the day, like I said, I think that's where you have to show some grace with people, right? And we all have different perspectives, and but like in our perspectives and our experiences affect everything. It affects the way we look at life. It affects the way we interact with other people. It affects, I mean, like what I do now. I mean, I help people plan, right? I have a financial firm, and at the end of the day, like the way people, their relationship with money all goes back to like family, how they grew up, and the culture. And it's so crazy to watch that intertwined, right?
Yeah.
But it's like that with everything. The relationship you have with people people from different places comes back to what was your experience? Where did you grow up? What were you taught about that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like the odd thing for me, I remember being in the Army, and I laughed about this because I'm like, who doesn't have a driver's license? So my unit had moved to Germany. They moved the whole unit to Germany. And we had these guys coming over, and you can't get a military driver's license without a civilian driver's license.
Yeah.
And you need that. It was in a striker unit. So at some point, you've got to drive that vehicle. Like everybody, that's just part of it coming up, right?
Yeah.
And everybody drives at some point for the most part, right? These guys are like, well, I can't do it because I don't have a driver's license. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have a driver's license? I got my driver's license at 15.
Yeah.
As soon as I possibly could. And I didn't understand it. It wasn't like there was anything wrong with those guys. I thought so. And then it finally clicked when I went to my buddies, like, dude, they're from New York. Like, they don't drive. They're 50-year-old people that don't drive. They use public transportation. And one of the guys goes, he goes, dude, I have a license. He goes, but I would never own a car. I'm like, why? He goes, because a parking spot's $2,000 a month. Oh.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you weird. It just means your situation's different.
Yeah.
Right? And your priorities are different.
I got you. So, man, you jumped into two segments there that I definitely want to dive into with you. But I want to go back because of where we were at the beginning of this. With you being a financial advisor, that proper term? Financial planner,
financial
advisor.
Professional. I'll use financial professional because I do.
Financial professional. I wanted to make sure I kept it because I know you do a lot of different things within that realm, within the financial space.
Yeah.
You do a lot of multiple things in there. So do you find then as a African American, do you find that, or how do you deal with people from other ethnicities and races? Like, how does that, especially when it comes to talking about money, because I've had other interesting conversations with people up here that, that also work within similar or slightly different but similar spaces. And, one of the gentlemen I talked to was basically like, I don't really pursue outside of my race because I have to convince them. It takes so much more for me to get them across this line when we're talking about money, because eventually it may not be them, but maybe it's mom or dad, and they're like, oh, you're going to take advice from this, African American, it's black man, yada, yada, yada. Have you battled that? Do you have a certain way you deal with it?
I would say, so tackle two things there.
Yeah.
One, it's funny because, and I love the fact that most people can't figure out what term or whatever. So I usually don't really use the term African American often. From Alabama and I'm black.
Yeah.
Right? I used to joke and say I've never been to Africa, but I actually have now. So, but when it comes to culture, it really depends. I work with anybody, right? Because I truly believe that, I just like helping people, man. I really do. So I'll work with anybody. cultures are different, right? And it's so funny because it's like what people think you have to overcome. You know, I do more of a holistic style of planning where I look at the whole picture. Like, I want to know everything you have. I want to know, like, what your spending is on your hobbies. I want to know what your spending is here. Even if it's money I'm not going to manage, I want to know where it is and how much is there so we can plug it into the model. I want to know all of it, right? Because, one, it gives me a good picture and we can plan better. But two, it gives me a picture of who you are. Because depending on who you are, how you're raised, where you were raised, and to a point, ethnic culture, man, it gives me at least an idea of things we may have to overcome because there are, like, you know, like I said, holistic. So we're going to do investments. We're going to do life insurance. We're going to look at, like, the big events that can erode wealth, like a long-term care incident, taxes, of course. So there's a group of people, and this crosses ethnicity, but it's the same culture that comes out of kind of the way I grew up, the Southern Baptist Church, right?
Yeah.
Not big fans of whole life insurance. It's not because it's not good. It's because they were taught a certain thing about it by a person who doesn't understand it. And that person's very popular, so I'm not going to say his name. But he's never actually done this for a living. And he doesn't understand the benefits of it, which is funny because 90% of the world's wealthy has been using it forever. So I have to overcome that and show them how the benefits and all that stuff work. There is an ethnic culture that literally I have to be like, no, that's not in your budget, because they will try to spend outside of their budget to do whole life versus term, when I'm like, let's just get term for now because that's not your budget. Because in their culture, that's what you get. Because they want the cash value. This is what you do, and that's the thing that saves you, whatever. And it's literally, you walk into the room and you know they're going that direction. As a matter of fact, rarely, I don't think it would be offensive to say it, but like it's typically Indian cultures and some Asian cultures, right? I mean, it's like, typically, you don't have to, like, I go through how ours works and how ours is different, but like they come in knowing that's where, and then we go back into the rest of the stuff for the whole, trying to build a plant, right?
Yeah.
But there's also, I think there's the big thing too is like, it's hurt, right? It's hurt.
Yeah.
I look at things I laugh about that I do to this day because I came up that way. Like, I was getting some stuff the other day at the store. I say the other day, but it was really probably 2 months ago. And a friend was like, hey, we're going to get buns. And I was like, why would I get buns? She's like, you got burgers. I'm like, yeah, but I got bread. To this day, that's my go-to, right? And to this day, I prefer making my hamburger at home and throwing it on bread instead of a bun. When I go out to eat, of course it's on a bun.
Gotcha.
But it's because I came up that way. And it wasn't that it was my mom didn't like buns. It just wasn't really an option.
Yeah.
Right? We were going cost effective.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have all those things that make you look at money differently.
What's your norm?
Yeah, what's your norm? I listen to a lot of, I'm always trying to sharpen the saw, and I listen to a lot of different guys. There's a podcast I listen to, and they always talk about, they bring on guests, and he is an advisor, and it's geared for advisors, but he brings on guests mostly in the financial industry, but some are actually, in the academic side, PhDs in psychology, PsyDs, all that stuff, whatever. And all this emotional stuff that is tied into money. And it's so funny because we all do it. You may not realize you do it, but we all do it, right?
It's deep-seated, too, a lot of times.
Like and so you have to get in there where you understand it. Like, I'm not a transactional guy. We're probably going to have 3 or 4 meetings before we do anything because I need to see how you think. But like I said, too, that's kind of my approach to life, right? I want to see, like, I like doing this, the belly-to-belly time. I want to see how you feel.
Yeah.
Right? Who am I to judge you, and how can I judge you in anything? I don't know you unless we've sat down and done this, right?
Yeah.
And just because your experience is different than mine doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
Just because I sit down and show you, hey, I've got this wonderful plan I worked up, and you're like, I don't know, doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's like, okay, there's something I don't understand here.
Yeah, there's a disconnect somewhere.
Yeah.
Right on. So tell everybody a little bit. I mean, let's talk about your military career, because you chose the path of serving the country and were in the Army.
Yep.
And
Hoorah.
went down that path. I just got back from a PTSD golf tournament today, supporting the vets. So tell everybody a little bit about your military career and where that led you in life.
Man, it's funny.
And thank you for your service, by the way.
Man, it was a privilege, and it really was. It was kind of one of those things I didn't think I was going to end up doing. It was something I wanted to do. Time I was a kid. Like I said, I have a lot of military in my family, all sides. Mom's side, my dad was in. My stepdad was in.
All in the same branch?
No, for the most part, yes. But so, ironically enough, my stepdad's brother, my uncle Mike, was kind of like a big influence on me. He ended up in the Army and finished in the Army, but he was a Marine.
I think Marine's the only one we don't have in my family. I don't think anybody was in the Marine Corps that I can think of off the top of my head.
So Uncle Mike had a huge influence on me, and then my Uncle Roy was Air Force, and he had a huge influence on me. So he was, my Uncle Roy was my mom's brother-in-law, and or is, or was, whatever. But he's still living and kicking to this day. I think he just had a birthday, but he was always around. So those are, when we lived in Alabama, those cousins I saw a lot. I'd see him a lot. We're not going to stay at the house. And, it's just like, he had a huge influence on me. Between the military, didn't talk a lot about his service in Vietnam, but I knew he'd been in the Air Force, and I knew he ended up working in the prison system for a long time, rising to the top of it, actually, like Montgomery, down to the Capitol, at the top of it, right? So, did great things, and worked in government for a while, and retired from there. But got to watch him, and and then I had my Uncle Mike, and those two. Uncle Mike would give me stuff, right, to go, like, because I'd be like, hey, I need this to go to this boys club camp or whatever. And so I'm running around with military gear from the time that I'm like 6. And didn't know what I would do. I always probably thought Army. And then I got into high school, and I was so actually when I lived in New Mexico, they had a junior ROTC program. I wanted to join. Then my mom was like, you probably shouldn't, because we're going to move. Like, the whole reason we came to New Mexico was to get to Texas. We needed to get into this region. Quick aside, my stepdad worked for Social Security Administration after he got out of the Army.
Okay.
He's a Vietnam vet, and he got out, used his GI Bill, went to school. Still funny to me that him and my dad went to Birmingham Southern at the same time, apparently. So he went to school, got done, went to work for Social Security Administration, and retired from there. But he was in the office there in Birmingham, which was basically there was nowhere for him to go, because that was the region office, right? And he was able to finally, when they decided to split Texas off, create the Southwest region, he ended up going to New Mexico to open that office, that regional office, right? And
Okay.
Nice double promotion, whatever. Go over there, got us into the region, and then he started looking as soon as he would be eligible to move again. to get here. And basically, I think it came down. My understanding is the other place was Plano, but we ended up in Sherman. I remember being told, like, "What's a Sherman?" So I didn't do it there. We got to Sherman. They didn't have any programs, and I had an Air Force guy that used to come in all the time in the Commons when I was in high school, and I talked to him, and then the world changed. So 1996, I graduate. Not an easy time to even try to join the military at that point.
Yeah.
Downsizing. One of my buddies that went in he ended up getting out early, got paid to get out early. The Clinton years, they were downsized the military. And so kind of, I just thought that ship had sailed for me. And I was focused on other things and wasn't going to worry about it. And then 9/11 happened. Now, mind you, 9/11 happened, and I am no longer in college anymore, no longer playing any sports. I have let myself balloon up to a ridiculous weight. And I'm like, oh, man, I was like, I'd be interested, but it's like, I'm not going to worry about it. Well, 2 years later, right, now we're in Iraq. We are legit at war. You know, we were in Afghanistan. We weren't sure how long we were going to be there. But now we're on two fronts, right?
What did you do for the Army?
I was in the infantry. And so I ended up going in at 27 years old. I ended up going in late. Because, like I said, I thought that ship had sailed for me. And then I realized, it's like, no, it hasn't. I can lose weight. And so I lost a bunch of weight. And got in. I actually got inspired again because I left the job. I remember that. I left the job, and I was this new thing called networking. It's when nobody was doing it. I was volunteering on the Bush campaign in 2004, and I was like, well, I'll meet some people. Maybe I'll figure out what I want to do next. And I remember hearing Congressman Hall speak. I was like, and he talked about how much that shaped him. And, you know, and that time he spent in the military shaped him. And then I heard Congressman Johnson speak, and he talked about being shot down and talking about coming back and still, like, he still served. He was a POW, and he still served after that, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man. And these guys all talked about how much it shaped them and made them who they were. I'm like, these guys are freaking congressmen. Like, that's not even one of my goals. Like, but if that's maybe. And then I went to church one day, one Wednesday, and a Army chaplain was there, and he spoke because he was coming for a conference that had been canceled, but he didn't know it had been canceled because they were still snail mail over in Iraq at that point. And but our teaching pastor at the time, Dr. McKinley, asked him, he was like, hey, would you mind speaking to our congregation on Wednesday night? And he showed us pictures and stuff from what was going on and told us what was really going on in Iraq, not just what we were hearing on the news. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do this. And so I think I lost 75 pounds and managed to, I made that decision in November.
You're like Goggins of the Army.
No, not quite as crazy as that guy. So I think I lost like 75 pounds and made the decision that I wanted to do this in like November. Kept bugging recruiters. Like I said, I had my uncle that was a Marine. Went and talked to the Marine Corps recruiter. They looked at me like I was crazy because I was like, oh, I'll lose the weight like by this deadline, right? I'm like, I'll work on it. And Marine Corps recruiter looked at me and goes, man, he's like, I don't know that you are because we have, he's like, we have an age cutoff and it was lower than everybody else's.
Yeah.
But actually that Marine Corps recruiter did me a solid. He's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, we're at war. Like, I want to go do something real. And I did talk to an Air Force recruiter out of deference to my mother. And then, because she really wanted me to go do something, and I actually looked at that. I looked at being a chaplain assistant in the Air Force. And then when Marine Corps recruiter I talked to walked me down and introduced me to an Army recruiter.
Game over.
Yeah, because I think he was saving me from the Navy guy that was waiting outside. And yeah, so I ended up talking to the Army recruiter. He worked with me. It took 3.5 months. By the time I talked to them, I'd already lost a good chunk of weight, but I still wasn't there yet. Took 3.5 months to lose the rest of it, and get me to MEPS where I could go sign it. And yeah, so we got me there. And then when I went down there, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna. So I think I still might be a chaplain assistant. But when I realized the chaplain assistant still was in harm's way, I was like, well, I might as well go do the real deal. But I didn't tell my recruiter. So I just came out after I signed my initial contract, right? Not the final one you sign right before you go in. He's like, what'd you do? I'm like, well, I was watching some videos. He goes, oh, no. They have this 18 X-ray program thing. He was like, did you really do that? I'm like, yeah. He goes, all right. He's like, all right, man. He's like, you understand that if you don't make it. I was like, I'll be 11 Bravo. I'll be infantry. I'm good with that. So I went into that program, tried to go Special Forces, and it did not work out for me. I didn't make it. I won't say it didn't work out for me. Because honestly, having that on my ERB, my enlisted records brief, for those who may not know what that is, and having to answer that question, did you quit or did you fell out? Long as you don't say long as you didn't quit. I didn't realize how much weight that carried.
That's a lot, man. That's a big thing.
And it was huge because I was embarrassed because I fell out. When I remember I met my first sergeant when I got to my unit after that, and he goes, and I walked up and I saw his right shoulder patch was a Ranger scroll. And I was like, he's like, did you quit or you fell out? I was like, I fell out. He goes, I can work with that. He's like, I don't do quitters. It's like, I don't do quitters. I can work with that. And what I didn't realize, the unit I got to, like almost all of us new privates we called ourselves the rejects. Almost all of us had either fell out of the SF program or the Ranger program.
Oh, wow.
Which was awesome because that means everybody there wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And I worked with some really great guys. It afforded me some great opportunities. And so, yeah, I said it didn't work out, but it really did work out because it opened doors for me that I never would have had I probably just come straight in. And probably it also ignited a fire for me to realize, like, I think there's things I can do, right? Like,
yeah,
like this is possible. And I will say too, because there's good and bad, right? Army's just a microcosm of the regular population. Being in that 18 X-ray platoon in basic for the time that I was there, because I did have a minor health issue, which contributed to that. I saw, in my opinion, the best of what America has to offer. I saw guys who dropped their ROTC scholarships so that they could come in as enlisted so they had an opportunity to go be a Green Beret. I had a guy in that platoon with me that had 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees. You thought I'd lost weight. He lost so much weight, he still had skin hanging. He got selected first round, by the way. That dude was a Green Beret. I watched guys college athletes. I watched guys who had every reason to have the biggest egos on the planet, humble themselves and work together and take everything the drill sergeants threw at them, then take everything the SF instructors threw at them. Right? Like, I think, so when I did have my challenging times and challenging units later, it wasn't that big a deal because, like, I knew I just had to find my niche and my people in that unit because there are plenty of good people in every unit, right?
Yeah.
And I had, like I said, I had the privilege of serving in some great and storied units. My first unit was the last standing. It had been the last standing Buffalo Soldier unit, the last standing all-black regiment, 1st Battalion, 24th Infantry.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's the only one of those old Buffalo Soldier units that's still in use today. It still exists today. It's in Alaska now, but
In Alaska?
yeah.
Holy shit. That's where my dad was in the Army, and he got sent to Alaska. That's wild. So is that where you, like, I love your tagline on Facebook. I'm going to probably butcher this. Do you remember what it says on there, where you have, like, right under your, like, personal info there? It's like, I actually do believe that one person can make change.
Oh,
Along
no.
those lines.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not it exactly, but it's along those lines.
Yeah. It's.
Is that kind of where that came from, that mentality and everything? Like,
yeah.
I know you're very passionate about that stuff, and not only did you serve, but you stay very involved politically and everything else, and you've done a lot in that arena too that I would love for you to touch on.
Yeah, no, I barely remember what I wrote in that, but I think, I said I'm one of those people just foolish enough to think that I can change the world. And it's not about me, right? Like,
Yeah.
But it's about the fact that, like, it's finding those collective people and working in a group to make that change. And I've always believed, like, I can find those tribes. And I've been fortunate enough a couple times to be able to be a part of, major changes. And part of that's the political world, but part of that's just like, watching things and being part of society. But again, it comes back to a lot of the family stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's unique being from where I'm from. I laughed just today when I saw the MLB's doing the Negro League game, at Rickwood, and or they do the tribute to the Negro Leagues at Rickwood, right? And I'm like, in Birmingham, which now is the oldest baseball stadium in America, because when Comiskey was torn down, it made Rickwood the oldest.
Yeah.
Now, right. So it's but it's funny when I really, like, I wasn't too far from where my great-grandparents lived, and, it's not far from Legion Field, where we went and watched Alabama and Auburn play in the Iron Bowl every year. And it's like, it's the things you don't think of when you grow up around them and you take for granted. Like, and I laugh about it because, like, so 16th Street Baptist Church was bombed, was my family church. My mom they weren't there on time that Sunday morning for church. Two of the girls had died with my mom's Sunday school class. She should have been in that room. Look at what my family did and the things like that, and being involved in the civil rights movement. Like, I've had that example set for me of, like, you see an issue, you get involved, and and you find people that are pulling in the same direction, and you go. And I think that to me, it's not hard for me to believe it, because I've seen it modeled so much by great leaders, family members and friends and people who've done it before me. I've come from a family of educators and come from a family of ministers. And so I think that's part of where I get it from. The other is, I think I've just been lucky. I've been lucky to be in some of the right places. I love the political world. It's a little crazy, especially as a black conservative. It's funny because I'm not a convert, right? And I get that all the time. Like, so when did you? I was like, I'm not a convert. I was raised this way. And then, they're like, well, your family came from Alabama. This is like, yes, they're Republicans too, most of them. It's like they taught me this, right? Like, I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative because I have a core value system. I have a Christian worldview that leads me in that direction. I mean, obviously, there's other stuff too. I mean, financially, it makes way more sense to me. I love capitalism and I love stuff, but I've watched, like, so having to fight that battle for so long about, like, explaining who I am And then working in Texas politics and working in partisan politics, it gets so discouraging sometimes, right? Because at the end of the day, this is what people don't understand. If you look at all the crazy races that happened in Texas, you've got 31 state Senate seats, and you have 150 state house seats, and you've got all this, but you really only have about between 9 and 12 truly contested races. Truly contested outside of the primaries. It's nuts, right? Because they're going to spend $1 billion on stuff, right? But really, that's it. And you're trying to sway those so you see who keeps control and does whatever, right? And it's just frustrating. It's like beating your head up against the wall. Or just like I heard the other day, and it's a true number. At the end of the day, these guys, this year, this election cycle, this presidential election cycle, there will be $1 billion spent, if not more, right? But really, people from 9 states and a few key districts in 9 states will determine the outcome of the 2024 presidential election, right? So you go through all that, and it's like you get frustrated. And I was frustrated. And then I had a friend of mine go, "Hey, man, have you ever heard of this group, Iraq and Afghanistan vets? They do lobbying in D.C., and they try to help vets out." And I'm like, huh. Like, I could take some of this crap I've been doing forever and use it for good. Because through this process, I got to know everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And I was chair of the Young Republicans here in Collin County, political director of the state. I served as co-chair for the engagement committee for the national committee for years. Get to know everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm like, oh, so I go to D.C., I go talk to these lawmakers with you, because they're like, yeah. And so, ironically enough, the guy who founded the organization, I joked with him that night at dinner, because I'd already screwed up once. I got there the first night, they took us to Hill Country Barbecue in D.C., and like, they go, "Don't judge us." I'm like, "Where are we going?" They're like, "We're going to a barbecue place." I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all don't know anything about barbecue. And it really wasn't that good. But when we go there, but the next night, I was like, I joked like, "You got me here because I speak Republican," yes, kind of, right? Because Paul's a great guy, but he really pissed off our former president during the primaries. And I laugh about it because I'm like, okay, cool, I can do this, right? I can do whatever.
Yeah.
Like I said, I met so many of these people already, or I had connections because of other people, and I had a blast. And I remember we dropped a bill, and it was to help our female veterans. And I remember I felt so good. I was like, well, I've never gotten to feel this way after working a campaign. And then it took, 4 years to get it done, but then I watched that bill get signed into law and watched the changes, are getting implemented. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is awesome. But again, it's a group of individuals who are crazy enough to work hard to go do this, and to sacrifice their own time and do their thing. But we're all different. My cigar buddy and my favorite debate buddy is the exact opposite of me.
Fair.
He's about as liberal as the day is long. We've been on 3 of these trips together. He now works for their organization, right? And we debate. We drink some bourbon. We smoke some cigars. We don't see the world the same way, but we see the problems, and we know they need to be fixed. And it's like, that's awesome to be able to just get involved in that process and go.
How do you guys maintain that balance? Because that's one of the things we talk about a lot that drives me absolutely insane, is that so many people in the world today can't have a difference of opinion, or not agree, but agree to disagree. How do you guys, when you're that staunchly opposed to certain things, find common ground and still move that forward? Because I know you do a lot of that, and not just with this one particular person that I know you just gave as an example.
I think so. I will admit that with the veteran community, it's a little easier. It really is. I think because we have that one thing in common already, and there's a problem we're all trying to solve for the veteran community. You know, whatever issue we're working at the time, I think it makes that easier.
Yeah.
But I think because we have that, but honestly, again, it comes to understanding, compassion, and giving people grace. Like, you may have a deeply held view on something, and I may disagree with it 100%. But why do you have that view? Help me, help me understand. Now, there's some things I'm just gonna look at you and be like, okay, I do not agree with that, right? But I'm still not gonna hate you. We can disagree, but and it's hard. Like, you know, you have talked about this, right? It's some people are so ridiculous. I think they just want to be angry. But I think the other part of it is too is like people who are that way never hear the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, they can sit here, they never hear it. They're just waiting for their chance to talk. Right? They're just waiting for their chance to jump in and say whatever they believe. They never hear the other side. Like, I have some pretty hardcore, like, some pretty deeply held views when it comes to certain things, life, the Second Amendment, and all that stuff. But man, like, I've also heard some really, like, just compelling stories. Not like that I'm just like, okay, I still don't agree with you, but I get where you're coming from. You know?
Yeah.
I think you just got to be open and remember people are people. Like, and we've all been through our own things. We've all been through traumas. Like, you know, if you say you haven't been through a trauma, you either haven't lived long enough yet or you're lying, right? We've all been through those things and we all have our own experiences. And it's just like, just try to remember people are people. They're not the enemy. I mean,
yeah.
And the funny thing is when you're up there in D.C., it's that way anyway. Especially the cigar lounges. Like, I laugh because when I go to Shelley's, it's like all these people that I've seen people that I see arguing on TV, just sitting there smoking and having a good time with me. It's a show.
I'm sure a lot of times it can be. Are there other lessons like that that you maybe could share that you've taken from either growing up in the family that you grew up in or your military experience that really led you to have that you still use today, whether it's in your personal life or in your work life? That, I mean, you have such a well-rounded, for somebody that takes very strong positions on a lot of things and like big issues, serious things. And again, I know you say lead with compassion and be open and really hear people and do these things, but is there maybe like somebody that, or a lesson, or was there a moment that like you saw that happen and you were like, oh man, like I want to be more like that, or I want to make sure that I take that approach?
So I think it's probably, so my mom, like, was my person, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom, my grandmother. My grandmother was a hard woman when it came to, like, she had strong opinions, and I'm probably a lot like her. But my mom was probably the perfect middle ground. She was strong in her convictions, but she was so compassionate. And so I think watching those two have probably given me that base. But the thing I will say is I watched, my grandmother could be just really, but with the kids, with me, right?
Yeah.
With the grandkids, she was just like, and the patience she showed me over the years, and the mistakes I've made and different things, like, it was just amazing, right? She was always there for me. I remember those last little bit before she passed, like, last couple of years, I had this thing about not having reliable cars when I got out of the Army and came back here, because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and whatever, and I rode my Harley most of the time anyway. And she would call me, and I'd gone from that frustrated part of my life to, like, I need to treasure these, and I'd get off I'd park on the side of the road and get off the bike and just call her back and talk to her. She'd tell me stories and things my mom didn't even know. And I'd tell my mom, she'd be like, I didn't know that. And I got to see that softer side of her and how she was adaptable and how she went through, you know, she adapted to change in a time that I can't imagine growing up in that time and looking like her. I just can't, right? I can't wrap my head around it. You know, she told me a story that she was at Tuskegee. She went to Tuskegee, and she was going to do a summer internship in Canada. And she went up for the job, and they told her the guy had never seen her. And she was like, well, I disclosed that I was black. And she's like, that's not the issue. He's like, you're young and pretty, and there's a bunch of guys up here. I just can't have you in this environment. He's like, but I'll pay you for the summer. As if you work. So she spent summer in New York. And she told me all these stories about Harlem and all these things, right? And how, like, learning different people's experiences. Because she's from this place called Opelika, Alabama, which is tiny, right? Not so much anymore, but back then it was tiny. And then my mom, I watched my mom do prison ministry for 40 years. I literally had
prison ministry. Wow.
I literally had ex-cons that, like, I watched her help them transition. Her and my stepdad watched her help them transition into, like, normal life, right? And I think it gave me a perspective because I thought forever I was going to be a cop. Like, and I did have a brief stint in law enforcement, but I thought that was going to be the, you know. But I think, like, I'd done all this volunteering, and then when I did finally get hired, when I worked in Grayson County, I was like, I think it gave me a different perspective. I know it did, because I didn't look. I think I would have had a harsher look at everybody had I not grown up in that environment. And so I think that patience with people and that was modeled for me. The other thing is, I know that I've done dumb stuff, and people have been patient with me, right?
Yeah.
I remember having a buddy from high school that he joked one day, and he said, he's like, you're going to eventually get a badge, and I'm going to end up he's like, and we're going to run into each other again, but it'll be because I'm on the other side of the bars. I'm like, sure enough, that happened. And he and I, you know, we joked about it a lot, but he and I reconnected when I got back. He had bought a motorcycle when I got back here, and we were sitting there talking. I was like, you know, the reality though for me was always this, like, it wouldn't have been that hard for you and I to be in trading places. And so I think that's part of what makes me look at, like, to try to have that compassion and that willingness to listen. And the other thing is, I've always believed that you can learn from everybody.
How easy was your transition in the basic training being raised by your grandmother? And I only say this from self-experience because drill sergeant didn't scare me for shit after leaving my grandmother's house. I had the fear of respect because I didn't want to go to where was jail at in Kansas? Leavenworth. I didn't want to do that. Was the only fear I had, was not take. But I would never. If you gave me an order, I just did it. I wasn't that guy to be purposely disrespectful or nothing. But him yelling and jaw jacking at me, I'm like, bruh, hell no. I got a 4'11" woman back in Nebraska that'll whip your ass. I'm not scared of you, but I respect your position.
Yeah.
But even though with that, she still taught me how to, you know, not do as you're told, as in like a slavery mindset.
Yeah.
Do the job that's put in front of you and get it on out the way. So what was your mindset going into the military based on the upbringing you had already experienced?
So I think part of it was I had her who backed me. And I mean, honestly, I don't know that I would have made it to the police academy without her. So I got hired at the sheriff's office and then sent to the academy. Rules are a little different back then. They're actually transitioning some things. And so I went to work from midnight to 7:30 and went to school from 8 to 5. And she helped get me through all that. Her and my mom, right? Like, supporting me, encouraging me. Mom was encouraging. My grandmother, we called her Mama Carrie because she didn't like to be called Grandma. Mama Carrie was more stern.
Yeah.
Of like, no, like, you're getting this done. Like, we've made arrangements to make sure you're going to be good while you're going through this. Make your little $1,800 a month is what I got paid back then, right?
I'm not dissing any other culture's grandmother. I just think old school black grandmothers came from a culture of you got to get it done because
Yes.
you are looked at differently than others.
And that was
you
part
have
of it.
no choice but excellence.
And whenever I came home and complained one day because I answered a question in a way that others didn't agree with when it came to the traffic question about where you would get pulled over, or where you would stop, or whatever, because I have a perspective about being black and being originally from Alabama that they didn't understand. And she was like, not everybody's going to understand your perspective. You just got to get it done. So I had that from her. And then I went to the Army, right? So I had the benefit of already going through the police academy and having that perspective from her. And then I got to the Army, and it was like just a reminder of the drill sergeant thing. It was like, this is just a game. Mm-hmm. This is a game. They have prescribed things that they have to do. Mm-hmm. And once you understand that, it's like this is a script. Drill sergeants go to school and learn to do this.
Yeah.
It's a script, right? And once you understand that, and once you take, the biggest adjustment is the fact that collective punishment, right? Collective punishment. You're not just responsible for your actions, but responsible for the actions of others. Once you can adapt that piece and just do your job,
Team building at its best, baby.
you're good. Like, it's not hard.
See, I still struggled with that the amount of time I was in boot camp because that's one thing I don't think I was prepared for. Like, when I got into boot camp in the Navy, the recognition or the recognizing of the fact that like there were several people that either were there not by choice,
Yeah.
forced to be there, didn't want to be there, etc., to then realize like in this team atmosphere and how they're trying to break that down that like my life's gonna be in this fucking moron's hands and like this dude doesn't care like either way, like, and he just like, I mean, like there's some of these dudes that like they weren't breaking, you know what I mean, like they weren't, like they were more hell-bent on not
giving in
Giving
because they
in.
were forced to be in
because they were forced to be
But now,
there.
didn't they get weeded
And I'm
out? Because
like,
normally those guys get weeded out before you.
man, like, I mean, I was there all the way. I mean, I was weeks from graduating when I got sent home because they didn't want to honor my contract and wanted to send me to the Marine Corps. So, but I mean, like, still thinking about that at the very end when I reflect on that, like, holy shit, if those dudes had still made it in, I wouldn't want to be, like, in that group with those guys because, like, those guys were going to get somebody killed.
So that's the thing too, because right, you get those idiots. Like I said, I had two different. So I kind of had two different. Infantry has OSINT, right? One station unit training. We don't have really basic, which is a good thing, but it's also kind of frustrating. I had two experiences because I came into that 18 X-ray contract while I was in the first phase.
Yeah.
I got double pneumonia and got put in the hospital. And I got sent home for 30 days of convalescent leave. So I came back to Texas. And then I went back. And I had to finish with, well, I didn't have to start all over, thank God, because I got there and the first sergeant, the company first sergeant, and my senior drill sergeant ran some interference. I hung out with them for a while so that I could insert pretty close to where I left off, in the same battalion, but with a different company. Well, now, but that different company wasn't made up the same way. Like ours was 2 platoons of special forces recruits, 1 platoon of ranger recruits, and 1 platoon of just regular X-rays, right? Regular infantry X-rays, mortarmen probably. That's what they ended up becoming, right? Charlies. I went to a regular, just everybody, and this was like probably 60% National Guard, and it was like completely different mindset, Guys aren't nearly as driven. I got some good counseling from my senior drill sergeant when I was leaving. He goes, keep your mouth shut about your contract and what you have. He's like, anybody ask you, let them bravo. That's what you're here for, right? He's like, you just keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, do what you need to do. You got this. And I mean, I managed to keep it quiet until everybody came up on orders and people couldn't figure out why I didn't have orders.
Yeah.
Because I'm not leaving. But it was crazy because the mindset was different. And there were some guys there. I'm like, and I had very much and again, I'm 27, right? And I'm like, hey, man.
Most of these guys are like 18, 19 years old.
I'm like, hey, dude, like, if you don't want to be here, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like I said, it made it very much different for me to be able to appreciate.
Thanks, sir.
Let's do that. To appreciate being around guys who really wanted to do the job and really wanted to be there. But man, I was like, look at these guys like, there's guys I'm like, dude, I don't know that I want to be in a line with those guys. And I mean, like I said, it made me very happy when I got to my first unit and realized almost all the new privates were guys like me who filled out at one of those programs. Because I was like, okay, they're confident, and even if they're not confident, they want to be here. They're not here because somebody forced them to, or because it's scary as heck. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a great experience, and you may not actually end up ever being in combat, but chances are, if you came in after 9/11, you were going to combat.
Right.
I mean, like, you need to, and this is the infantry. Like, we had to. So here's the funny thing is I ended up running into this kid later. He wasn't a kid anymore. By the time I met him, he actually pinned on E5. Same again. But, like, this dude literally balled up in a corner and was like, and I ended up with him as a battle buddy for a little while, right? Because you always have battle buddies, right? And so I had to go with him to go talk to the first sergeant. He was trying to get out. And he's like, I don't want to hurt people. And like, and the senior drill sergeant was like, what? You signed up for the infantry. He goes,
he just wanted to take a lot of walks on the beach.
It's like, I don't want to hurt people. He's like, you signed up for the infantry. He's like, we break stuff and kill people. That's what we do. By the time graduation came around, this dude had his act mostly together. It was kind of like, okay. So I run into this kid after I come off active duty here in the National Guard. I was like, no, it can't be the same. It's like, because fam's like Smith, right? Like, that last name is like Smith, right? I was running this guy in the National Guard unit out in Singleville. I'm like, hey, man. And he's also filled out at this point. Like, he's grown like 6 inches and, like, joking and cool and fun. I'm like, hey. He's like, hey, Sergeant, where'd you go to basic? When? They're talking, I'm like, you don't remember me? He goes, but I thought that was you. And I'm like, holy crap. Wait, freaking E5? Like, you're like, and then I'm like, you got a CIB? Like, you've done some things now, right? Like, so it can be transformative. I think for most it is. But it is kind of scary for those guys that just refuse to. There is a program. At the end of the day, like you said, it's not a slavery mindset. It's this is your job. And this is part of it. And this is what, the reason this works, and has worked for 240-something years, is because there's a system, right? And you got to learn the system, or you need to go do something else with your life.
Did you have in the Navy, y'all didn't have battle buddies, did you?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I went in with one of my best friends, and we went in on a buddy program.
I did the same thing,
we
but we
would
went to
have
two
gone
different
through.
MOS.
But then, like, once we went to school, we would have been going to different schools.
Man, I got a battle buddy, foxhole partner, this guy, you know, basically, once you get past all the training, you start going into the field, you know, you got your the company kiss ass was my foxhole partner. And man, yes, drill sergeant, he was so irritating that when we went on the, you know, you go on the final bivouac, the 25-mile road march, Omaha Beach, all that stuff. And in the middle of the night, drill sergeants literally came up, snatched him out the foxhole, whooped his ass, and threw him back in the foxhole. And it was pitch black. You couldn't see anything. I went to go, like, touch his shoulders, like, you okay? It was his boots. They threw him in head first. I had to crawl out of this, in the foxhole, you're chest deep. I had to crawl out, pull him out. Next morning at chow, this kid was lumped up, bruised up. And the first sergeant said, "What happened to you, Private?" And the drill sergeants looked over him. I went to go take a pee and I tripped and fell into a tree. First sergeant said, "Man, you look like you fell into about 12 good trees." Damn. And dude was quiet for the rest of the.
Wow.
I mean, graduation was literally 2 weeks after that, but still, it's, man, you just get certain different type of characters. And that guy I didn't run into again. I don't know what happened to him, if he went on, what he became, whatever, but just.
I will say, man, you run into some crazy, you see some crazy, there's also so much good. Like, if people ask me now, like, "Oh, my kid's thinking about this," I'm like, yes. Pick a branch, go. They're all good.
Yeah.
You need to, my friends who are kids are Aggies and they're planning on going to the Marine Corps. I said, I don't know, it's good to be a member of 2 cults, but besides that, they're good, right? Like, but I'm like, no, it's like, I think
you started the Aggie train now. I'm sure this is going to blow up.
Here it comes.
But no, I think it's just fun to look back now and go, like, one, I saw guys transition into, like, just, and I've got buddies who are still in that are, one of the guys I went to Iraq with just pinned on E8. I'm like, so badass to me, right? I got another buddy.
My son's an E8.
Yeah.
Right now, my son's
That's awesome. I'm actually going to a conference real soon with Jason Redman, the Navy SEAL that literally got his face blown up. Really looking forward to that time there, working with him and his wife. They do a lot of speaking engagements and stuff like that, so I'm looking forward to that.
See, I mean, those are the cool things, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, I got a buddy from high school that just pinned on Colonel, right? Like, it's just, it's cool to watch how people grow, and it's cool to watch. And you've heard me tell this story, and it's funny as hell to me. And if he ends up watching the podcast, it'll be funny. But like, I was home on leave, just finished OSET, finished infantry school, graduated. I'm feeling like big man right now. I got my blue cord, I got my disc. I'm like, I'm the man, right? And it's funny because there's a certain level of. They always say that infantrymen and fighter pilots have this level of arrogance. Well, one, there was a good article I read. It's needed because we're doing dumb things that most people like. Your brain's telling you not to do it, right? But it's your job. But it's funny, like, so I'm feeling pretty big, whatever, and I run into a buddy of mine from high school, and so his brother and I graduated together, and his brother was an infantry guy and Ranger qualified, all that good stuff, right? And he went the high school flight route, and he's telling me about another guy I know from high school. He's like, but I don't realize that's who he's talking about at first. He's like, yeah, he and I are flying together, and he's doing this. I'm like, hold on. We're not talking about the same Will. And actually not going to use his full name because he did some special operation stuff. But I'm like, what? And my buddy's like, yeah, dude. He's like, you end up making it through this next phase. Like, this dude's probably going to be flying you around. He flies for the 160th. I'm like, no. Dude, had a storied career. Guy in high school, I would have never even thought about doing that.
Yeah.
Guy, and he spent, over a decade flying for the top aviation regiment, 160 years.
There's a lot of guys I know like that you look back at high school and you're like, man, there's no way. Or there's one I was like, yeah, absolutely. That guy is going to be a badass. And he ended up becoming a ranger, and I don't know what all he did after that. But, I mean, he was a bona fide badass. I mean, this guy ran track. He was like captain of the wrestling team. Like he was.
Yeah, those are the guys you expect, right?
Yeah. You expected him, but then like, there's also the couple that you're just like, wait, what?
But that's what I said. It's good for people, and I think that I believe in mandatory service and all that stuff. No, because I just don't. There are moments I want to because of all like the dumb things we're seeing going around right now around the country.
Mm-hmm.
There's times I want to, but I'm like, no. But there's, I'm not ashamed. I'll talk about my example with me, right? Like, I made a lot of mistakes, and I really blew off, like, a lot of things. High school wasn't hard for me. I didn't study. Like, it wasn't hard. College was a wake-up call. Right? And, but a lot of it was I was lazy.
Yeah.
And I remember leaving. I mean, the only reason that I had above a 2 whenever I left college initially was because of the fraternity. Like, you know, I know one of the big things for my fraternity, I'm a Kappa Sig, right? So, like, most of the deals, we like to be number one in every category on campus. And I was a Southeastern, and, you know, that was hammering me on grades, right? I think that was it. I just really didn't do great. I come back, I go to the Army, come back to finish up my undergrad and get my master's. I'm like taking 18 to 21 hours a semester trying to get done. 3.3 and a 3.7. Like, and it wasn't hard. The difference was discipline. After spending 5 years on active duty, I had discipline. And I had a system. Like,
yeah.
I had a system of how to accomplish these goals, right? It wasn't hard anymore. Like,
you were able to break things down a lot more.
Yeah, like, it gave me, but mostly it was the discipline. It was like, okay, there's a task. It's just got to get done. It's got to get done. It's got to get done. You know, and it's like understanding that you can't just always procrastinate and all these things that you like to think that you understand that before. And a lot of times, I think a lot of high school athletes and college athletes get it, right? But I didn't have that system.
Yeah.
And the Army gave me that discipline, right?
That's awesome.
And that allowed me to be able to do things. I joke, because like, it took me forever to get my bachelor's, but it only took me a year to get my master's because I had to make up for time. Because, but it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
I did things backwards when I got my master's. Like, I signed up for a class because the counselors were out, and my undergraduate counselor was like, well, you're going to do constitutional law. This is a constitutional law class. Sign up for this one. Did not realize that was the one you're supposed to do last. And the professor, she tried to give me an out. She's like, I don't let people out, but I will let you out, and then I will see you in a year. But I will leave it up to you. And I remember going home and thinking about it, talking it over. And I remember coming back like, yeah, I'm going to stay in the class. She's like, you understand I'm not going to treat you any different? I'm like, yeah, but it's like, no offense, with all due respect, this isn't the hardest thing I've ever done. Because it wasn't, right? Like, It's a whole different mentality. Like, I got my associates in a daggone war zone. Like, because that's what I did. I didn't play video games. And, when I was in Iraq, when we weren't doing missions, I was taking college classes.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm that oddball guy who's never on a video game system. It's just never been my thing.
Yeah, I can't see you sitting and playing a video game.
Don't feel alone, dude. I have a PS5 that I play maybe 3 times a year.
Yeah. I mean, I got
used to
so good at Madden that, like, no one would play me. So, like, it got kind of old.
I got tired of getting my ass whooped in Madden, so I just stopped playing.
Yeah, I'm saying, when I suck at this first-person shooter games.
And that's what I'm good at.
I'm terrible at that shit.
You get online and you got a 6-year-old killing you from 25 miles
away.
That shit
ain't fun. You generate on a map and you're getting blown up the minute you generate. I'm out on that.
See, this is the stuff that I'm not trying to do. Plus, I'm not trying to play war games.
Yeah. You got to play them for real.
For real.
So yeah, it's a little different.
You know, it's funny, man. I look back and like I had an interesting and weird deployment. I think that's most of my life. Everything has been different than it's supposed to be, or backwards. I do everything backwards. Everything, because most people, like I said, I did the law enforcement thing first, but then I went to the Army. It's not the way it normally goes. When I jumped in the financial industry, I went to work for a 60 advisor boutique, and then left there and went to partner with a very, very large company. Do everything backwards, but it gives you an appreciation, right? Because I know what it's like to work without resources, and then to get resources, it's like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah,
right?
It's a lot different.
But yeah, like I just, man.
Well, before I forget, because we're going to keep doing this and, you know, chatting, I've got some other things I really want to hit with you. What are we drinking? What are we smoking? Because everybody always hammers us on this. So tell everybody what you're smoking and what you're drinking, and then we'll go around, kind of do that deal.
All right, so
because I know that's one of your favorites.
Yeah,
there.
so smoking.
Not the size you normally like.
No, but I actually really like this size. And the funny thing is, because Oliver made me smoke this once, because he's like, "Have you even tried it?" I'm like, "No." I was like very adamant, like, "No." I was like, "This is what I," you know, because I walked out with like 5 Pretensiosos in my hand one day, and he's like, "Have you even?" I'm like, "No." He was like,
So what is it?
it is the Bandolero. I can't remember now. I just said that the name of that size, but it's the 54 ring edge, and it's like really great. It's got
the green label. The what do they call
Peruvian?
that? The Iscarian or something like that. It starts with an E. I can't.
yeah.
Remember.
So it's no, but it has like a lot of Peruvian.
Okay, I just know that was the blend. The Peruvian is the tobacco.
It's got a lot of Peruvian in it. So like he made me smoke this thing, and I love it. So good job. And then I'm drinking some old Granddad 114 because I like high proof.
There you go.
Love high proof.
Yeah, we know. We want to talk about the Jacob's Ladder story.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I like strong cigars. I like high proof whiskey. Some people get a little nervous around strong cigars.
No, some people don't want to get sick and throw up. So somebody handed me a Southern Draw Jacob's Ladder. I did not know that the devil made this cigar. That Satan.
I already know, bro. I sold the one I bought. Go ahead.
I'm just saying. So, was I DJing that night or was I just chilling? I don't know what. I was just chilling. I take one draw off this cigar, and the inside of my heart folds up and falls into my left pants pocket. And as I start to black out and pass out, Eric was like, "Man, give me that. You don't want this?" I said, "Hell no." And he said, "I got it." He killed that cigar in like 12 minutes and didn't even look like.
Yo, same thing. Bruh. He did. So, man, now I'm gonna forget what they're called. The Halloween edition.
The Tatawahes monsters.
The Tatawahes. Man, I bought unknowingly, because my locker was kind of full at the time. I bought the Halloween edition in like 2017 or 2018 of the Tatawahes, where it's like Jason, Freddy Krueger,
I remember that.
the 11th edition one. Well, I bought it, opened up the box, pulled a couple out, tried smoking them. Man, I couldn't do it. They were so peppery, just hot. They kicked my ass.
Like you ate hot wings. Like
yeah, man.
Hot wings.
I was like, I'm gonna get acid reflux from smoking this cigar. Like, this is killing me. Well, so I stuffed it back in my locker. I was like, I'll get back to that. Well, then I guess I forgot at some point, and the 2019s came out, and I bought a box of those damn things, and did the same thing. Opened them up, not thinking about that I still had that whole other box.
Now that's been marinating for 2 years.
Yeah, and then sat there and started trying those, and I was like, all right, first of all, I was dumb as hell. Like, if I'd have just kept with one, I could have sold the other one and realized this cigar is not for me. So I literally, that's where the vinyl came in, because me and Eric did a little trade, you know. He was like, I love Tatuaje. And I was like, Bro, I'll make you a bag. Like, I literally brought in like a gallon Ziploc bag, and like I filled it with like whatever was left in both of those boxes. I was like,
he probably
here
took
you go, bro.
He probably took him, got a glass of Everclear, and back with his old granddad, and just had a good old time. Cause
hey man,
I don't see how the hell you do that, man.
Those things too for me are,
Some Malart, something like that. He drank with it. I mean, who knows?
Just something. Just
I can tell you those things for me are, they're still a little peppery for me, but
probably shooting Goldschlager while he was smoking.
No, I've grown up a little bit. My Goldschlager days are over.
Rumplements.
I can still do Rumple once in a while.
Unleaded gasoline on the rocks.
All right, well, shit. I gotta talk about something better than this because
What are you smoking?
So I'm smoking because there's still a few of these left up here. The Atabey Black Ritos. And I will still say this is the best cigar I've ever smoked.
Yeah.
This cigar is absolutely amazing. So as of 2 hours ago, there were still about 6 of these left up here. So if you're watching this, you want to try it, stop by ICC and grab you one. And then I am drinking Buffalo Trace.
That's always a good go-to.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. I mean, it's so funny to me, like the things that are just, they're staples, right? Like, I go places, I travel. Usually said, we talked about I traveled a lot during politics, traveled a lot during business, whatever. And there's just like, if I go into a place, I know like, I don't need to take 20 minutes to order them. Like, you got Buffalo Trace?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we're good.
Exactly.
We're good, right? No, it's not going to be crazy.
Yeah, you know it's going to be super expensive. You know it's going to be consistent. You know it's going to be good.
It's going to taste good, right? Well, that's the thing, too, with the Atabey's period, right? So Atabey's not... The Byron's more my flavor profile. As we've established, I like a little bit more fuller-bodied. But...
Have you smoked a Black Ritos?
Yeah.
Okay. So...
Yeah.
If you're going to talk about an Atabey... That's the one.
That's the Atabey for me. The Black Ritos is freaking phenomenal. I really was kind of, because it had been hyped up so much before I finally had one, and I was like, okay, please don't disappoint. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, you're going on solid ground there.
Yeah, that thing was amazing. It's kind of funny, man. Like, consistency is, I think that's just one of the things we all like when it comes to life anyway, especially in this world.
Yeah. How do you, I think everybody should be a little more transparent like this, but I really like your approach a lot too, because I watch you navigate your social media. And have you ever had issues with the fact that you are so open about your beliefs and the things you stand behind? Or how do you look at that? Because, I literally see you post everything from your politics, your religion, to, you name it. And, a lot of people get scared to do, especially those first two things. Put their political views out there, put their religious views out there, especially somebody that's in sales or, a high-powered role and that has a corporation to answer to some degree at the end of the day. How do you navigate that, and how do you look at that? Because I honestly admire how open you are about that thing. And I know that also comes from a place because you are somebody that will sit back, listen, and you're not going to just argue with somebody about it, but you're open to hearing their side of the story, everything else that we've talked about earlier. But how do you personally navigate that? Because you touch on all those things regularly.
So it's the funny thing is, I used to be extremely self-conscious, and I still am to a certain extent about certain things, but like the idea of not wearing a jacket coming in here tonight, but I told myself I was not wearing one.
I don't know if you're going to come in here in your cuts or what.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? A couple of things have happened over my lifetime that have made me go I'm just got to be comfortable being me. One was when I ran for city council here in 16, right? Was that one of my buddies asked me straight up, he's like, hey man, everybody knows you as the cigar guy. People know you as the biker. People know you as the DB, right? Because they see me in my cut, and they're like, how are you going to navigate that? Because, I mean, I don't post a whole lot of the biker stuff on social media. I post some of it, right? I'm like, it's what it is. I've also worked in politics long enough to know that if somebody wants to find out something about you and use it against you, they're going to find out. You just gotta be you. And so going through that experience, running for office, freed me a lot, right? Because I always had that. I mean, I grew up growing up faith-wise, I grew up in a very legalistic culture for a while, right? Then there was that kind of came in a lot to like the way I handled myself on social media and my public perception. And but when I ran for office, like that was just all just out there, and so I've just embraced it. And the other thing is, for me, I remember that, like, I try to remember that people who are gonna judge you are gonna judge you no matter what, and so I'm just not gonna worry about it. So when so that's part of it. The other thing when it comes to my faith is, and it's not always easy, right? Because I have made mistakes in my life, and some of them very public, right? And so I don't want to look like a hypocrite. At the same time, my faith and knowing, I don't want to go too, I don't really care. You don't care with Jay on there.
No, go for it,
here's
man.
my thing.
Say what you want to say.
Here's my thing, right? The fact that I'm a Christian, the fact that I know what God has done for me and what Jesus has done for me, and that redemption power right there for me, I try to remember, and the pastor just pointed this out last week, is that we have our past and we have the things that come from that. The consequences are still there a lot of times. The physical and earthly consequences are still there. But like the Bible literally says, there is now, therefore, no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. So like, I know that I've made mistakes, but I know that I walk in a different place now. And I know that I also have an obligation to share that with others. And one of the platforms I do have, because I really hate social media, I really do. I use it for a lot of different things to keep up with old Army buddies and high school buddies or whatever. But like, if I'm going to have it, I'm going to use it for some good, and I'm going to share my thoughts. And a lot of times, a lot of what I share comes from the Bible app, because they write it way better than I could. I like to say I don't write well. I either write like a politician or I write like an academic, not very relational. But these guys do it well, and I can just share their content. I'm going to do that, right? And I think that if anybody has a question or anybody wants to call me out on something, then maybe I can use that as an opportunity to be like, yeah, man, I screwed up and I did this. But this is why I talk about grace, and this is why I talk about what God's done for me. This is why I talk about the opportunities that I've had that I don't deserve, but they're here, and I want to use every platform I have for that, right? So all my stuff for me comes down to, I really do believe in changing the world, but everything I do, like my hobbies and everything, I want to just have a central purpose, is to really just to share, like, to share God's love with people, but also by proxy to do what He's called us to do, is to love people, right? So I want to help people. And whether that be through work in my financial practice, or whether that be through helping other veterans with PTSD issues or life issues, or whether that be just being there for somebody who's going through some crazy experience that just needs somebody to talk to, I want to be open for that. So in order for me to do that, I have to be very willing to be transparent, because there's no credibility if you're not willing to share, with others. And I've had some crazy conversations in my life, especially over the last year or so, since I've really been more open with that.
Yeah.
With people telling me all sorts of crazy hurt and different things that happened to them in the past. I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But hey, man, like, I don't know what that person needed at that point. Maybe they just needed to get something out and needed somebody to listen to.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'm going to just do that. The other thing is, it's really so much easier to live life where you're just authentic.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't have to remember what I told Busy on Friday and what I told you on Tuesday, because I'm just me.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter. Like,
absolutely.
And so it's easier to live a life that's just authentic.
It makes it easier, too, because we know exactly what to expect when we have a conversation with you. You are you who you are. We don't have to worry about it. You're going to be this version, that version, whatever version. And that's one thing I kind of like about a cigar lounge and the atmosphere we have. Everybody has their own distinctive personality, and you are who you are because you're not that representative. You've met people who are fake, so they got to act one way when they're with the group and another way with their group. No, this person is genuinely who they are. Well, especially here.
Yeah.
You know? But I went to your job.
That
You're
shit
still
gets...
you at your job.
Yeah.
Just as you are here.
Right.
You know, and I just think that birds of a feather start to flock together.
Yeah.
That you don't want to be around a bunch of fake pretenders. And I'm not saying we don't have them.
No, I mean,
people don't
that gets
change,
weeded out.
But, you know, you kind of weed that out a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, as you decide who to align yourself with or stick to.
You know, the funny thing is,
I would rather it be, I'm the same way, whether it's language or how I dress, how I present myself, how I speak, like, that's me. And, you know, that's where I don't worry about those things. And, you know, I have to give a 15-minute, like, TED Talk at this thing coming up. And it's eating my lunch right now. Trying to, like, make myself feel like I've got to tell this story a certain way or be this way, and I still want it to be really authentic. But the reality is I'm kind of torn between a couple things right now, you know, especially with the podcast that everybody we're talking about right now, we're on. Yeah. But there's another one that's in the works that I'm super passionate about that, like, has been on the back burner for, in one shape or another, for decades. I mean, it's going to turn into a podcast, but at the same time, you know, that, and then I have my day job, you know, this shit does not pay the bills, you know, so, like, you know, and there's been a lot of conversations from different people because I'm one of the first people in this space that I operate in on my day job to really do this and to do it the way I'm doing it. You know, a lot of people were upset at first that it wasn't just straight up multifamily, that I wasn't, you know, but then honestly, the conversations I had more people coming up to me at trade shows and this and that. How do you know so-and-so? How do you know these different variety of people? How did you get this person on your show? Like, you know, it's like, I want a safe place for people to talk because that's how I learn. I learn from having these conversations. I gain more at the end of the day than, you know, I could care less if this, you know, ultimately, if common sense never made $1, I really wouldn't care because, like, it's helped me grow in so many areas. I've learned, I've built relationships off of this and everything else. So I think it's really important to be authentic and to put that stuff out there. And, you know, like you said, we've all made mistakes. We've all had our bad times. We've all done things we regret. We've all, you know, like, whatever it is, like, but to stand on it, just, you don't see everybody do that the way you've done it. Like, you know, people are worried in this day and age about stating their political beliefs, stating their religious beliefs and all this. And I mean, look, honestly, I think it's a shame that, you know, we can't have conversations about that. I mean, I have conversations with people all the time about this, that, you know, just because, you know, what if, you know, our political beliefs align a lot, but, like, what if my guest was in the other field and, you know, like, they want to do that? Well, I want them to feel safe. Like, I'm not going to dislike that person any more or any less. Like, let them have their say. Like, I still might learn something. Like, we might not agree on these 3 things, but we agree on these 6 things. And, like, that's not, and just because they believe in these, I'm not going to judge or hate on this person for those few things.
You know, it's funny too. That's the way you.
And if somebody does that to me, I you know what? I probably don't want to associate with that person a whole lot. To be honest,
the hard part, right? It's the people who don't understand that. But I think, like, you would be comfortable having somebody that disagree with you on here, right? Because you're at that point where you can do that. But not everybody does that well. But I think that when you can do that, like I said, I have friends that I disagree with, and I had friends that I debated with all the time. One of my biggest, like, one of the people I like to work most with when I was in grad school, we disagreed a lot, and I think it made us both better at forming our arguments. It made us both better. Yeah. But, you know, there's also, like, there's I will call things out though, right? Because there's some things I just think are dumb, right? And that's when you get to the I get really opinionated when I think things are just offensive, to be honest, right? So I saw something today and I laughed. It was like, why do white liberals have this just this disdain for, or lack of respect for the black community? And I was like, huh? And I was like, oh yeah, because here's the thing, like, and I won't go off completely on my my tantrum or on this one, but like every time people bring up voter ID, and I just look at them and I'm like, do you think that black people are not smart enough to be able to get an ID? Because if your argument is that, then I'm not with you. Like, I can't do this. But if you can give me a well-reasoned argument or something, I'm going to listen to you and be like, okay, I can see how you could come up with that. But, like, there's certain things I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm just not going to, you know. And I should probably, for better or for worse, I am crazy enough to actually put that stuff out there on my social media.
I should probably be a little better about that, too. But to me, too, I don't think enough people are called out on certain things, like, and it allows things to continue to go down that road. I will not name any names, but I had someone, I'll say this in this room with you two because I think it will add maybe some benefit to somebody, like, and it's a perfect example. I had somebody send me a text message of a black cat humping a white cat. And it was literally like titled like, well, we know they're growing up without a father. And I was like, that shit ain't funny, man. Ain't funny. Like, don't send me that shit. Don't. And it was like, and then I called them out on it and they were like, well, that was just supposed to be funny. You were just supposed to laugh. No, you're not supposed to laugh. Like, just because there's a meme out there with that shit, you're furthering that kind of racist bullshit and like, you know, something that's an issue, or like, you know, you're furthering that. Like, no, that's not something you're supposed to laugh at. Like, you should be the bigger person to like go like, man, that wasn't cool.
That's the other thing is I think we're supposed to, I believe we're supposed to speak up, right? And I think that's one of the other reasons I put stuff out there, because I try not to, I used to be a complete firebrand on social media, and I try to dial things back a little bit sometimes now, especially because, at the end of the day, two reasons. One, I do have a business to run, and I have, and I'm building my own brand right now, and it's like, that matters. But the other reason is because when I do say something, I want it to matter. Yeah. I don't want to just be throwing stuff out there. And there's times I see stuff, I'm like, no, I'm going to call that out. Like, and like I said, the stuff that you see going on right now, like, there's certain things you can, I am a constitutional guy. I'm a First Amendment guy. I believe in the right to free speech. I believe in the right to protest, freedom to assemble. I believe in whatever. I may not agree with you, but I will defend to my death your right to do it, right? But there's also...
do it right, too.
There's also, like, crap we just need to call out. Like, all the anti-Semitism and all that stuff right now. Like, okay. Like, the thing that I saw when they were trying to get to the Met Gala last night, right? Where these protesters came up and they're burning the American flag, which sucks, but it's constitutionally protected. But they were, like, desecrating a World War I memorial. I'm like, okay, all right, jackass. Like, come on, man. Like, there's a certain point of where you should just know better. Yeah. Like, that's not okay, right? And I think that we have to step up. I think part of the problem in society right now is there's not, and I'll call out the men because men are called to lead. Yeah. There's not enough men who are just standing up and doing what's right, right? There's just not. Not calling out wrong when they see wrong, right? Sitting on the sidelines, and that's where I get frustrated. I just don't want to be one of those guys, and so I'm going to continue to be out. At the end of the day, what's the worst that can happen? I probably shouldn't say that, but what's the worst that can happen, right? I'm still, and like I said, I'm not a huge fan of social media, but it's a platform. Just like I've been fortunate to have some opportunities to actually talk to the press and do some things. For a little bit, for like a year, I was the weird guy who got interviewed by the LA Times when Texas lost the affirmative action case. And I was the weird black guy who was on the side of the students. And then we're like, you're not a fan of affirmative action? I was like, I think that it had a place at the time, but like when you already have 3 different mechanisms that account for race, like at some point, you know, at some point, okay. And the other thing is, it's insulting. What in the world makes you think that I need more help than you do? Like, and not saying you, but but that's like, at what point do you think I am not capable of doing this, right?
Yeah.
Because we have all these other things that make sure that the opportunities are a more level playing field. Never be 100% level, right? Because there's all these other things too. You have alumni admissions and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But there's like, at a certain point, you're like, all right, man, like, what makes you think that I'm not capable because of the color of my skin of doing something, right? I'm like, you just got to call it out. And it may not be popular, and you may get crap for it. You probably will get crap for it.
Yeah.
But, like, doing what's right is not always easy. And I think that a lot of times we don't accept that anymore. And we just want to go what's easy.
Yeah.
And, man, that hasn't really done well for us as a society.
No, it has not. How do you balance this? And if you don't want to dive into this too, we don't have to. But how do you balance this with your club stuff? Because I know there's a lot of like, you know, there's a lot of people that feel like there's good and bad there. And I mean, is it? Do you weigh the good and the bad? Because there's a lot of stigmatisms and there's a lot of things that are thought of between being involved in a club like that when you're also a part of all these other things. I mean,
so there's a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to the motorcycle club world and club life, but like anything else, there's different types of organizations, right?
Yeah.
The one that I'm a part of is independent. We are our own group of guys, and but that we say our own group of guys. That in and of itself, I've heard. I was at a bar a few years back, and I had a lady just like come unleashed on me about like, why couldn't I be a member of your club? Like, why couldn't I do this? Like, because we're a men's club in this day and age. Yes, we're a men's club. Like, that's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
We are a traditional MC, which means we are male. We are not all one color, so that is not the case. Do some of those clubs still exist? Yes. We're mixed race. It's who we are, right? I balance it, I think, okay, because I don't really... At the end of the day, like I said, I'm always willing to answer questions. And so if anybody has an issue, and I'll be like, hey, yeah, we don't, you know, like, we're not like the things that you see on these crazy documentaries or any of that stuff. We're not, we all have families and jobs, and we all do our thing, but we have a brotherhood that allows us to, you know, it's the closest thing, one of the closest things I've ever had to what I had in the military. You know, we all have a love for motorcycles, and we don't have the same. We have, you know, we're all different. We don't all ride the same bike. We don't all have the we're all different, but we have a camaraderie and a brotherhood that we've earned. I think that's the thing that's different than what you see with some of the riding clubs and things like that are more socially accepted, is the fact that people still don't understand. I think that a lot of people in modern society don't understand it's something you have to earn. They don't. Instead of something you just join. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Now, of course, we've had our challenges with things in Waco and all that stuff, like 2015. And we've had our challenges where people have just looked at the biker community negatively. But I think a lot of that's gone away. A lot of it, too, is people remember the good the biker community does. I mean, we're the first ones to show up when something bad happens. We're the first ones to do a charity run. We're the first ones to, you know, and that's all kind of come back in full force. The other thing I remind people is that there's all sorts of clubs, man. There's freaking cop clubs, there's military clubs, there's organizations that are clubs that specifically work with families who are victims of abuse.
Yeah. But what about when the clubs get involved in something that's probably not on the up and up? How does that get dealt with? How do you separate that when you're part of a club like that?
So the thing is, for me, is I'm not part of an organization like that, and that's the thing. It's always like, man, I don't know what they do, but this is not us.
Yeah,
like that's not us. You know, it's kind of the same as the fraternity world for me, right? Like,
yeah,
I volunteer with the fraternity, and I get some of the same stuff. It's people like, well, you know, the Greek system is this and this and this. I'm like, yeah, you may have had one bad experience. At the end of the day, it's not a bad system, and there's a reason that I think the last number I saw was 2/3 of all Fortune 500 CEOs are Greek, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, the system isn't bad. There's bad apples in the system like anything else. All these things are a microcosm of society.
Yeah.
And so I just tell people, like, do your research and look, like, was that us? No. Then that doesn't affect us. Like, we're going to continue to do our own thing and enjoy riding together and, you know, doing the things that we do, right? Supporting the community.
All right. Well, we got to wrap this one up. So time for the 2 questions that we ask everybody at the end of the show. So if you had to leave your child with one piece of advice, what would you leave your child with as a piece of advice?
I would say probably the thing that I wish that I'd realized earlier in life. Be yourself. Be yourself. I guess second to that is always learn. Be willing to always learn from others. If you do those 2 things, then it opens doors for you, because you'll never question like who you are. And if you're always learning from others, and I'm not talking about people whose stations are just above you, but people whose stations are equal to you, whose stations at the time maybe below you, because that can change in a heartbeat. Always learn. Be willing to learn from anybody.
Right on, man. That's awesome. All right, last part. Show's called Common Sense. So we like to do a little segment called Your 2 Cents. So this could be about anything we haven't asked you, something you want to talk about, something that's on your mind. It just, Eric Hall's 2 cents for the world today.
Oh, man. Obviously, I mean, I'm kind of cheating since I've watched the podcast, but but I haven't been able to, I've been thinking about this and I haven't been able to think of it, because I think about, like, all the craziness and what we've seen over the last week and a half and all this nuts, like watching the graduations getting ruined and stuff like that. I'm like, man.
Well, that's a good starting point. Maybe that's what's weighing on you. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what's your 2 cents about how people should be dealing with what's been going on in the last week or 2 weeks that, you know, that you're paying attention to on a world scale, political scale, local scale? It doesn't really matter. I mean, it literally could be anything.
I would say that, you know, I look at what's going on right now. It's like, I think people need to remember that most issues are way more complicated than they think they are. And it requires a lot of understanding from multiple sides, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, I think we all need to just remember to treat people well. Because if you treat people with kindness and respect, then you wouldn't have you just wouldn't have this as the issues that we've seen, right? Because then you could have truly peaceful protest, but you would not have kids not being able to get to class, or you know, graduations being canceled because you can't safely have them. We all have our opinions.
do you think maybe the word protest should be changed? Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
like it's not necessarily a protest, like, but you're putting your opinion or your view out there. Like, you could be staunchly for this. It doesn't mean you're protesting the other thing. Like, because to me, protest kind of, you're creating conflict the minute you say protest. Like, not that everybody shouldn't have the right to do that, and I agree with you when you said that earlier. Like, I want to support that, and I want people to be heard. Yeah. But being heard and listening is not protesting. Protesting involves too much other things, and it turns into too many other things. So it's not like you want your soapbox, but like have your soapbox, but also one that listens as well.
Yeah, I think the common sense aspect of this is like just show respect to people and be open, really, and realize that one, you may not be right, like, and that's okay. You might be right, but that's okay too. But like, just show respect. I think I just realized the world. You talk about, you know, my world, the biker world. I think that's one of the reasons I love that world so much. Is it's still built on respect. Like, handshake goes a long way, right? Respect is the one thing that you have. That, you know, and people go by that in that world, right? And I think if we could ever get back to the world where a handshake is a handshake and your word is your word, man, I think it would be a much better place.
I agree 100%. Yeah. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you coming and sitting down with us, sharing your stories, sharing your knowledge with us, man. I appreciate that, man.
Man, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, next week we're going to be back again on Tuesday. After that, we'll kind of get back to a normal schedule, but you're all going to have to bear with us the next few weeks because our schedules got pretty crazy, but we still want to bring you the content and the show you're used to. So it might be on a Tuesday, it might be on a Thursday, but next week's on Tuesday, same time, same place. We're going to be sitting down with my good friend Panda, who has a very interesting story and has dove off in the cigar world. I mean, this guy has gone head first into cigar world. He's been making some amazing cigars, and I look forward to you guys getting to hear his story. So I hope you guys will join us again next week. Peace.